The UK first went into lockdown in March 2020. Many people found themselves working from home, thereby spending more time at home and less time commuting. We were surrounded by the messages like the ones you see here. People were saying things like, when you go for a job in the future, employers are going to ask you how you spent lockdown, and you need to have a good answer that involves learning and development. You have more free time than ever before. You have no excuse not to learn that new skill or finish those projects or get fit. This wasn't helpful because there were millions of people it didn't apply to. Some people were struggling because they had less time due to extra caring responsibilities, or the lockdown affected their mental health and motivation. My name's Suze Shardlow, and I'm here to tell you what I've discovered about the power of co-working through running co-working sessions during all 3 UK lockdowns. You can find me at suze.dev or at Suze Shardlow on Twitter. Please do tweet at me. I'd love to hear from you. So a little bit about me. I'm a software engineer, coding instructor, event MC and technical writer. I'm also chapter lead of Ladies of Code London, where I originated the co-working sessions I'll be telling you about today. I love making stuff that people use and enjoy, and during COVID I've taken up some crafting hobbies. Here's a photo of me on my 13th birthday using the computer I learned to code on. You can see I love co-working right back in the 1990s before we went online. So there's a report cited by the UK mental health charity Mind and the UK National Health Service. The report's by the New Economics Foundation. They reviewed more than 400 research papers to identify the 5 steps we can take to improve our well-being. Co-working can help us incorporate several of these into our lives. It allows us to form connections with people, to feel like we're part of something, and to get and give moral and practical support. This is something that the COVID situation has taken away from many of us. It doesn't help us to be active in and of itself, but the co-working activity could be something physical. For example, you could go for a run with somebody or be on a call with somebody while you run separately. It can help you to gain more self-awareness in terms of how you can better organise your time and projects. It's an opportunity to spend time learning new things in an environment where others are trying to get things done too, especially if you've hit a motivation barrier. If you organise the sessions, it's a way of giving something to people. And if you're attending a session, you might find there's someone there who needs your help. Okay, so now we've looked at how co-working could be part of your wellbeing toolkit, but we've also said that we don't necessarily have time to prioritise the projects that are gathering dust. Here's a technique that can help you figure this out. You may already have a packed schedule. You may believe there's zero slack in your schedule or that there's nothing you can sacrifice. The only way you can know this for sure is to write down exactly what you do as you're doing it. Looking back through your diary or calendar isn't going to give you an accurate picture, because I don't think you're going to write down in your diary that you're spending 2 hours on YouTube in the afternoon. You need to do an audit. You want to be able to see what kind of things you're spending your time on and whether that's the right spread for you. So make a table like the one that I've done here and write down everything you do every day for a week. 2-hour blocks is fine. You don't want to spend all your time recording what you did, but you do need to be honest with yourself. Then look back and see how you're spending your time. Now, I'm not saying anything in the example here is a waste of time. I think everybody browses LinkedIn and Twitter, and then you go on YouTube and you fall down a rabbit hole. It happens to everybody. There's nothing here to be ashamed of. But you do need to look at this and decide whether that's how you want to spend your time and how you need to spend your time to achieve your goals. Then look at where you could reduce or remove activities to increase the amount of time you can dedicate to your highest priorities. Like I said, I'm chapter lead at Ladies of Code London. We had to take all our events online when there was a big shift to remote work last March. My entry into co-working came about because my friend wanted me to help her build a personal website and blog, because that's what I do. I said, okay, why not make this another one of our online events and open a Zoom call and see who comes? I remembered all the messaging about productivity that we looked at earlier, and I thought there must be other people trying to get things done. So in April 2020, we ran a co-working session, and it was a little bit my warped sense of humour, because we had other series called Get Into for roles in tech and Get Heard about how to get into public speaking. So we called it Get On With It. And the name kind of just stuck. That's still what it's called now. 18 people came. The activities ranged from building the said website to sorting out Lego bricks and painting some walls. And we decided to run them on a regular basis. Since then, I've run more than 40 of these sessions for a total of more than 130 hours, and we've co-worked with more than 80 different people so far. Generally, we've run them every Sunday afternoon for 3 hours, and the way it works is this. We open the call and give everybody the opportunity to say what they're working on. We then go and work independently for about an hour. If we want to chat or collaborate or get or give help, we use Slack or one-to-one video conferencing. We build in a tea break, followed by a midpoint check-in. We then work for another hour and check back in at the end. All the check-ins are optional. People can watch and listen as opposed to show and tell, but I do encourage them to join in because those who join in feel like they're part of the community. The timing works well for different countries. We've met lots of people from all over the world, and people in the USA have taken the format and run it locally. Some people found us by searching meetup.com for quiet Zoom co-working. They're not technical, and it's been interesting to hear what they've been working on. Here's some of the feedback we received after the first couple of sessions. Some people have managed to finish tasks they'd literally been putting off for 2 years. And more recently, somebody's joined and they have started a task that they've been putting off for 5 years. So as we've already discussed, co-working can help you take some of those 5 steps to wellbeing that we looked at earlier. And I've asked Ladies of Code members to tell me about the benefits they've received from coming to the sessions and what they learn, and how they've been able to use co-working as a productivity tool. This is what they said. It's easier with somebody who doesn't understand what you're doing. People were finding that all they really needed was somebody metaphorically next to them, keeping them on track. They said that the person didn't need to know how to do the task, only that they needed to get it done. They said it helped if the other person knew less than them because it meant there was less pressure and they wouldn't get criticised for the way they were doing it. Sometimes they can see things you can't. They might be able to see ways you could break things down or other approaches you could take. Also, having to explain something to someone else helps you improve your understanding and solve your own problems. Co-working combines self-motivation with motivation from the group. So there always needs to be an element of motivation from within. And what co-working gives you is a support network and some external influence over your momentum. You share your own work and receive feedback, and you see other people's projects and progress. If you're in an environment where everyone is trying to get things done, it helps you to get into the productivity zone. It helps kill problematic perfectionism. Now, I have been a perfectionist forever and I'm trying to recover. I do recommend a little bit of perfectionism. Some perfectionism can be good, but for me, it really morphs into procrastination sometimes. I started using the mantra progress, not perfection. The co-working sessions can help curb the perfectionism because if you only have 3 hours to write something or make a video, you're more likely to get it done. If you didn't time box it like this, it will probably take weeks. And like I said, someone in the group had been putting off a project for 2 years, and somebody else who's just joined the group had started something they've been putting off for 5 years. Getting feedback from the group also helps with this. If you get your project ready to 80% of what you consider perfect and the group is blown away, you can use this as a confidence boost to think, okay, that's good enough, I'm going to ship it. Maybe you can come back to it later. Maybe you'll never come back to it later. Either way, you've produced more than you would have if you'd waited to get it perfect. It keeps you honest. So lots of people use co-working sessions for accountability. And while there's never any pressure to speak, I always encourage people to say what they're working on. When they know other people know, it makes them feel more committed to it. It also stops the false equivalence that some of us do, where we'll have 5 items on the list. One of them is to boil the kettle. So we go and boil the kettle and tell ourselves that we achieved 20% of our tasks for the day. Sometimes you need someone to say to you, maybe write the paragraphs first and then boil the kettle. Or if you fall down the rabbit hole of YouTube videos and someone asks what you're up to, maybe they'll suggest you watch the videos together after you've both finished your tasks. It's like going to the office without going to the office. And I did think about whether or not to include this one, but I think it's important because some of the folks in my group are self-employed or they're co-founders, entrepreneurs, they run their own businesses. So they don't have a team per se, they're not employed by anybody and they don't have an office that they would normally go to. They would use actual co-working spaces normally, or they were home-based. And what Get On With It has done is the co-working sessions have provided them with opportunities to bounce ideas off people and force them to put some structure around their time. Another thing that folks had learned was that coders do other things in their spare time, and we've had all sorts of projects in the Get On With It sessions. People, especially those new to coding, have learned that people don't spend all their time coding. And I think that's important because we see a lot of things on tech Twitter about how folks are doing coding in their spare time, and it can make people feel inadequate. So it was good to get a bit of a reality check as to the fact that people who are software engineers don't necessarily spend their spare time doing it. Attendees also like the fact that we don't limit Get On With It to tech tasks. They like the fact that they can change things up. I always cite the example of the woman who put up a shelf, and people have used the time to go for a run. It's really hard to be your own cheerleader. I think at some point we've all been guilty of the negative self-talk, and I get this a lot whenever I think about writing a blog post. I wonder who will want to read it or whether I know enough about the topic to write about it. It's a lot easier to see the positive or the helpful stuff in someone else's situation than it is to see it in yours. If someone told me they were putting off writing a blog post for the same reason, I'd probably give them some reassurance and point out the logic in the situation. We're often much kinder to other people than we are to ourselves. We shouldn't rely solely on external validation, but if you're finding that you're only telling yourself negative things, then it can help you give yourself a boost to hear a positive comment from somebody else. This can also apply when you think your project is too simple and not worth bothering with. Telling people what you're working on and realising that they'd have to do a lot of hard thinking to solve the problems can help you realise that not everybody can do what you can do. Many people come to co-working and leave with a confidence boost. It's a myth that everyone else is more motivated or fulfilled. And I talked about tech Twitter earlier, and it's really easy to feel inadequate when you go on there. A good proportion of the Get On With It attendees are more productive when they come to our sessions. It's easy to feel that your low productivity is a result of laziness, but that's often not the case. Deep down, many people have the same issues with getting things done or feeling like they need to achieve more or that they can't get started. More than 80 people have attended Get On With It, some of them for most of the 40 plus sessions, and not all of them would have achieved the same levels of productivity on their own. Sometimes we just need a bit of company. So like I said, these sessions have been replicated by Meetup Groups in the USA. I have a blog post with a full methodology, which I will give you the link to. And here are the ingredients for a successful co-working session. So the first one is allocate the time. I've shown you how to find or try to find little pockets of time in your schedule. See if you can make this up to a chunk of time that you can spend. Find some like-minded people. They don't have to be working on the same stuff you want to work on, but just somebody that needs to get something done. Just start with one person. You don't need to feel the pressure to find a whole group. Just find one person that needs to get something done. Go for progress over perfection, because if you're anything like me, perfection is going to stop you getting started. So if you go for progress, then just do the first thing, and then you're further forward than you were before you began. My favourite bit, and I think the most important part, is the checking in bit, because that's the bit that gives you the community. It gives you the encouragement. It gives you the opportunity to give back. You know, in the 5 ways to well-being, giving is one of them. It gives you the opportunity to give back to other folks and really help to lift them up as well if they need a boost. Again, there's no pressure for people to check in, but those who do it really found it valuable. Build in the breaks. The breaks are really important to keep your motivation up. There's nothing worse than trying to go from 0 to doing a whole hour of something at a time. There's no point trying to do that. Just build it up slowly. I can understand why once you found some motivation, you're really impatient to get it done, but don't overdo it. It might be counterproductive. Provide communication channels for people to check in if they want to. They might have had a breakthrough 5 minutes into the session that they want to share and celebrate. So to give them some form of communication, some asynchronous comms for them to do that so they can get cheer-led on. And that leads on to celebrating. Make sure you do a check-in at the very end. Find out what people have done. It might be that some folks didn't get as much done as they wanted, but as long as they're further forward than they were when they joined you, then it's all good. Thank you for listening to my talk. My name is Suze Shardlow. I'm a software engineer, tech writer, and event MC, and I hope I've encouraged you to consider co-working as a productivity tool. Here's a link to my blog post outlining the full methodology for Get On With It. I've also put a link there to my Meetup group in case you'd like to join us one Sunday afternoon. Everyone's welcome. Don't be put off by the name Ladies of Code London. and enjoy the rest of the conference.